The halls of Ridgeway High School smelled like old varnish and cafeteria tater tots, buzzing with the usual noise of teenagers glued to their phones, laughing too loudly, or trying too hard to be invisible. And then there was Harper Lane, a name barely whispered, a presence mostly unnoticed. Harper was 22, but she might as well have been 80 in the eyes of the students. She was the school librarian, not a teacher, not a counselor, not someone whose words carried weight in the staff lounge. She was just the big girl who sorted books. At 425 pounds, Harper moved through life quietly, each step measured, careful, deliberate, avoiding stares. Her beauty, to those who looked closer, was striking. She had porcelain-pale skin, soft and glowing even without the sunlight. Her deep blue eyes held stories, oceans of them. Her long, thick chestnut hair framed her face like a silk curtain. Her red lips, always painted carefully, were plump and inviting. Her lashes curled like calligraphy under dark mascara. She never left home without makeup. It was her armor. But the truth hid under every layer of foundation and cherry gloss. Harper wasn't just overweight. She was sick. A rare pituitary disorder had ravaged her body over the past 2 years, turning her once slender frame into something unrecognizable. Despite the cruel jokes, the whispers of lazy or gross or why doesn't she just diet, Harper knew she wasn't just gaining weight, she was losing control of her own body. And in a world where beauty meant worth, Harper had become invisible. Each morning began the same. She arrived at 6:45 a.m., unlocking the doors to the school library before the sun even warmed the bricks of the old building. The library smelled of dust, paper, and something sweetly forgotten, like childhood. She moved quietly between the shelves, running her fingers over worn spines. Books never judged. They never whispered behind your back or posted cruel memes. Books welcomed you in, no matter your shape, no matter your pain. Harper had one joy left in life: reading. And in that joy, something began to stir. It started with a sticky note, just a small square tucked inside a copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, left open on the returns cart. It read, "If you feel alone, it's not because you're weak. It's because this world has forgotten how to notice people like you. But I see you. H." Harper smiled to herself, cheeks turning the color of ripe cherries. Something about the gesture, small, hidden, sincere, made her heart flutter. The next day, she left another note, then another. She never signed her full name, just H. And she didn't stop. Soon, students started whispering about the Note Fairy. Inside copies of The Catcher in the Rye, The Hunger Games, even Diary of a Wimpy Kid. They found little slips of encouragement. You matter more than you know. Bravery isn't loud. Sometimes it whispers. I believe in the version of you that hasn't bloomed yet. Each message was handwritten in swirly blue ink. No one knew who was behind them. No one suspected the quiet girl at the front desk. Then came Mr. Caleb Everett, the new English teacher. He was young, maybe early 30s, with scruffy brown hair, wire-frame glasses, and that kind of warm smile that made you think he really listened. He had transferred from a school in Oregon and brought a strange energy to Ridgeway, like he believed things could change. Harper noticed him right away. She watched him from behind the computer monitor as he checked out class sets of novels. He always thanked her. He always said her name. Most people just said, "Hey," or worse, avoided her entirely. But Caleb? "Thank you, Ms. Lane. Have a great morning, Harper. You look lovely today." She wasn't sure if he meant it, but it lit something inside her anyway. One afternoon, Caleb lingered in the library longer than usual. "Do you know who's been leaving the notes in the books?" he asked casually, setting a copy of The Great Gatsby on the counter. Harper looked up. Her breath caught. "What notes?" He pulled out a folded blue slip from the pages. Even the broken deserve to be seen as whole. His eyes were kind, curious. I think whoever wrote this is doing something really special. Harper blinked quickly, trying to hide her flushed cheeks. I don't know, she whispered. Maybe someone wanted to be seen. Caleb smiled gently. Then they succeeded. Later that evening, alone in her small apartment above the laundromat, Harper sat on her bed, books stacked high around her. She pulled out her journal and began writing again. Some days I feel like a ghost walking through the world, but maybe ghosts still have a voice. Maybe mine matters. She closed the journal, eyes damp. She didn't know why Caleb's words stuck with her. Maybe it was because he didn't look at her with pity. Maybe because when he smiled, it didn't feel forced. She didn't dare hope he'd ever feel anything more. She wasn't that kind of girl anymore. But still, she kept writing. The next week, something shifted. A sophomore named Lily, usually glued to her phone, came to return a book and whispered, "Thank you." "For what?" Harper asked, startled. Lily blushed. "For the note in the poetry book. It helped." Harper didn't reply. She just nodded, heart thudding in her chest. That night, Caleb returned to the library, alone. "I'm starting to think whoever's behind the notes is doing more for these kids than anyone else in this school," he said, leaning on the counter. Harper kept her eyes down. "What would you say to someone who feels like they'll never be enough?" he asked suddenly. She looked up, swallowed hard. "I'd tell them, you're already enough. The world just needs time to catch up." Caleb stared at her for a long moment, the silence between them thick with something unspoken. Outside, rain began to fall. Inside, something, just barely, began to bloom. For the first time in a long time, Harper felt like her heart was waking up. Each day after Caleb's visit, she'd catch herself smiling for no reason, tucking away another note inside a book, watching a student's face brighten when they found it. The whispers about the mysterious note fairy were spreading fast. Even teachers were starting to take notice. But with attention came danger. Because Harper had built her life in the shadows, and now the light was getting too close. On a rainy Thursday afternoon, Harper was shelving books when she overheard two juniors whispering near the fiction section. "I bet it's a prank," one girl said, flipping through a copy of The Fault in Our Stars. "No way. Some of those notes are like poetry. They made Ashley cry last week." "Well, whoever it is, they're probably just trying to get attention." Harper ducked her head. Her fingers trembled as she pressed the spine of a book too hard against the shelf. It slipped from her grasp and fell with a loud thud. The girls turned. One of them rolled her eyes. "Oh," she muttered. "It's just the fat librarian." Harper froze. They didn't even bother to whisper. She waited until they walked away before letting herself breathe again. That night, Harper stared at her reflection in the mirror. She turned to the side, then back again. Her skin, so carefully made up, couldn't hide the truth under it. Her face had puffed out, her neck was thick, and her arms were soft and wide. Her body strained against her clothes. Even the largest sizes barely fit now. "I'm tired," she whispered to herself. She collapsed on her bed, the journal falling open in her lap. "Why does it feel worse now that people are noticing me?" The next morning, Caleb stopped by the library again. He brought coffee, her favorite vanilla latte with oat milk, and placed it gently on the desk. "For the mystery writer," he said with a grin. Harper looked up at him, startled. "I never said it was me." "You didn't have to," he replied, voice warm. "I know words, and those sound like yours." Her throat tightened. "Please don't tell anyone." Caleb's smile faded, just a little. "I won't, I promise. But, Harper, why hide something so beautiful?" She looked away. Because they only see the outside, she said softly. And if they saw it was coming from someone like me, it wouldn't feel beautiful anymore. There was silence between them. Painful, honest silence. Then let me say it, Caleb said. I see you. I see all of you. But not everyone was so kind. 2 days later, someone posted a photo on the school's anonymous message board, a snapshot of one of Harper's notes. The caption read, "Aw, looks like our library whale has a crush. Wonder if Mr. Everett's into that kind of literature." Within minutes, the comments exploded. So cringe. Imagine writing all that just to get attention. Poor guy. She's like triple his weight. Harper read every word. Each comment was a punch to the gut, a reminder that no matter how kind she tried to be, the world would always reduce her to what they saw, not who she was. She didn't show up to school the next day. Caleb noticed. When she didn't return the following Monday, he walked straight into the principal's office, his hands clenched. "I want to know what's being done about the cyberbullying going on in this school," he demanded. "One of your staff members is being harassed and humiliated, and nobody's doing a damn thing." The principal raised an eyebrow. "If you're talking about Ms. Lane, she hasn't filed a complaint." Caleb's voice hardened. "She doesn't have to. Have you read the posts? She's being crucified." "I understand your concern," the principal said coolly, "but unless Ms. Lane comes forward—" "She won't," Caleb interrupted, "because she's spent her whole life being taught that she doesn't deserve to take up space." Harper, meanwhile, sat curled on her couch at home, lights off, surrounded by silence. The books that once comforted her sat unopened on the table. Her phone buzzed again and again, messages from Caleb, from a few students, even from Lily. "Ms. Lane, you helped me when I was thinking of dropping out. Please come back. The library feels empty without you. Thank you for the note and speak. It made me feel less alone." She read each one through tears, but she couldn't find the strength to go back. Not yet. On Wednesday evening, a knock came at her door. Harper opened it slowly. Caleb stood there, rain dripping from his coat. "I know you don't want to see anyone," he said quietly, "but I need you to know something." He pulled out a notebook and opened it. Inside were dozens of copied notes, her notes that students had found and saved. "She changed my life. She's the reason I didn't give up. I don't know who H is, but I hope she knows she matters." Harper's eyes blurred. "I didn't write those," Caleb said. "They did." He looked at her with that same unwavering gentleness. "You told them they were enough. Now let them tell you the same." That night, Harper sat at her desk. She lit a candle, opened her journal, and wrote one last note. "I may not be perfect, I may not be thin, but I have a voice, and I'm done hiding it." The following Monday morning, Ridgeway High felt different. The skies were unusually bright for a February morning. The frost on the windows had begun to melt, and somewhere in the distance, birds were chirping, as if even nature sensed something was about to change. Harper stood outside the school's main doors, her fingers trembling against the worn leather straps of her tote bag. She hadn't been here in over a week. The viral post, the cruel messages, the silence that followed, each had carved something out of her. But she was here. She was back. And this time she wasn't just the girl who slipped notes into books. She walked into the building, head held higher than usual, her heart pounding beneath her cardigan. A few students looked up, surprised. One boy quickly looked away. A girl whispered something to her friend. Harper caught a flicker of recognition, but also hesitation. She walked to the library, unlocked the door, and stepped inside the space that had always been her sanctuary. The scent of old pages and lemon cleaner wrapped around her like a familiar blanket. She let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding, and then she opened her laptop and wrote something that would change everything. By lunch, every student in Ridgeway had received a school-wide email titled, "From the Librarian, a letter to my school. Inside it read, "You don't know me. Not really. You know my weight. You know my silence. You know my job title. But you don't know how I wake up every day wondering if I'll be stared at, laughed at, whispered about. You don't know how I've tried, quietly, to lift you up when I couldn't even lift myself. Yes, I'm the one who wrote the notes. I'm H, and I'm not ashamed. I've watched too many of you walk into this building carrying invisible pain. So I tried, in the only way I could, to tell you that you matter. But I'm also someone who deserves to be more than pitied, more than mocked. I am more than my body, and so are you. If we could all just pause, just for one moment, and look past the outer shell, we might see the battles each of us is fighting. I forgive you, even the ones who tried to humiliate me, because I've realized something. You can't make someone feel small if they've already decided to stand tall. Harper Lane. The ripple was immediate. By 1 p.m., students were huddled in corners of the hallway, reading the letter aloud. Some looked stunned. Others looked ashamed. A few, like Lily and her friends, looked inspired. A group of girls posted it to Instagram with the hashtag #Dear Harper. Another student, a shy boy named Drew, wrote under it, "Your words saved me. I wish I had your strength." Even the teachers were talking. And in the teacher's lounge, Caleb Everett sat quietly, eyes wet, rereading her words over and over again. That afternoon, just before the final bell, the intercom crackled to life. "Ms. Harper Lane?" Principal Wilkins's voice boomed across the halls. "Please report to the auditorium." Harper's heart seized. She stood slowly, smoothed her skirt, and walked out, students parting silently around her like waves around a stone. When she entered the auditorium, she stopped cold. The entire senior class was seated there, along with teachers, staff, even the janitor. Caleb stood near the podium. When he saw her, he smiled and stepped back. "Ms. Lane," he said gently into the mic, "they want to hear from you." Harper's lips parted. Her palms went clammy. She looked up at the sea of faces, some curious, some nervous, a few tearful. She took a step forward, then another, and then she began. "I never wanted to be the center of attention," she said, her voice soft but steady. "I just wanted to make someone's day better, to make the silence feel a little less loud." She paused, glancing at the back row where Lily and Drew sat. "I've spent years hiding behind cardigans and clever words and aisles of books, because it was easier to disappear than to be seen for something I never chose." Her voice cracked. "I didn't choose this body. I didn't choose this pain, but I can choose what I do with it." She stepped closer to the edge of the stage. "And what I choose is love. Not the fairy tale kind, but the messy, inconvenient, painful kind that says, even now, even like this, I am still worthy." The room was silent. One tear slid down her cheek. She let it fall. "I may not fit your mold, but I will no longer shrink to make you comfortable." Then, to her shock, someone stood. Lily. Then Drew. Then more. One by one, students began to rise. Some were crying, others clapped quietly. And then, all at once, the entire auditorium was on their feet. A standing ovation. For her. After the assembly, Harper sat on the stage's edge, legs dangling, eyes still red from crying. Caleb walked up and handed her a tissue, then sat beside her. "You were incredible," he said softly. "I was terrified." "Good. That means it mattered." Harper looked at him, truly looked at him. "Why did you believe in me?" He smiled. "Because I've been broken too. And people like you shine in the dark." They sat in silence for a moment, the auditorium now quiet except for the low hum of air vents. Then Caleb added, "There's something else." He reached into his coat pocket and handed her a folded piece of paper. She opened it slowly. It was one of her notes. the one she had written months ago and tucked inside The Great Gatsby. Even the broken deserved to be seen as whole. She looked up at him, eyes glassy. You kept it? He nodded. It kept me. That night, Harper walked home under a starlit sky. She was still 425 pounds. Her condition hadn't changed. The cruel comments hadn't all disappeared. But something inside her had shifted. She had faced the fire and walked out stronger. And somewhere deep within, she felt it. She was no longer invisible. She was seen. Spring came early that year. The trees on the edge of Ridgeway High began to bud with soft pink blossoms, and the air carried the gentle scent of renewal. The building, once gray and stiff with routine, felt warmer, brighter, as if the bricks themselves had taken a deep breath and remembered how to feel. And in the heart of it all was the library. Still quiet, still lined with shelves of stories, but something had changed. Students no longer tiptoed past Harper's desk. They stopped to say good morning, to ask for recommendations, to talk about their day. Some just came in to sit, to breathe in the calm she had always carried like a secret lantern. She hadn't shed her weight overnight. The condition still clung to her like a second skin, but the shame no longer lived there, not the way it used to. She no longer shrunk away from mirrors or avoided eye contact in the hallways. Her makeup was still perfect, red lips, long lashes, but now it was no longer armor. It was self-expression, confidence, color in a world that once made her feel invisible. One Wednesday afternoon, a small, hand-painted sign appeared in the front window of the library. Welcome to the Kindness Corner. Leave a note. Take a note. A little wooden box sat underneath, filled with folded papers, some from Harper, most from students. One said, "You're not your mistakes." Another, "Someone out there loves the sound of your laugh." It became a ritual. Every lunch break, students would come in, slip a message into the box, and take one out. Some kept the notes in their lockers. Some pinned them to backpacks. One girl even tattooed her favorite on her wrist. Harper watched it all unfold with quiet joy. As for Caleb, he was still teaching English, but his visits to the library had become more frequent. Sometimes he brought lesson plans, sometimes coffee, sometimes just his presence. One afternoon, he walked in with a worn copy of Jane Eyre, his tie loosened, smile crooked. "I need help finding the right quote," he said, tapping the book. "For what?" Harper asked, sipping from her thermos. "I'm writing something important," he replied. Harper raised an eyebrow. "Something poetic, I assume." Caleb grinned. "Only the best for someone who writes like you." She looked away, flustered, but not ashamed, never ashamed again. It was the end of the school year when he finally told her. The students had gone home. The hallways were empty. Harper stood at the window, watching sunlight dance through the leaves. Caleb stepped behind her. "I used to think I had to be strong all the time," he said, voice low, "to hide the broken parts." She turned to face him, her blue eyes soft. "I did too." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small, folded paper, the same one he'd carried for months. "Even the broken deserve to be seen as whole. I read this every day," he whispered, "until I realized I don't want to just be seen. I want to be seen by you." Harper's breath caught. "And I want to see you, Harper Lane. Every beautiful, brilliant, messy inch of you." Tears welled up in her eyes, not from sadness, but release. She had written so many words for others, but now someone was writing them for her. That night, she wrote her final note for the year. She slipped it into the box under the kindness corner and turned off the lights. The library glowed in the fading sun. "To anyone who's ever felt too big, too quiet, too weird, too broken, you are not a mistake. You are a story worth telling. You are enough. Always, Harper." She stepped outside. The evening breeze kissed her cheeks. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rang. Students laughed. Life moved on. But inside Harper Lane, something had taken root. Something fierce. Something free. She was no longer the girl who hid between shelves. She was the girl who lit the way. In a world that often celebrates perfection and appearances, Harper Lane's story reminds us of something far more powerful: the quiet strength of being kind, even when you're hurting. She showed us that your worth is not measured by your weight, your past, or how others see you. It's measured by your courage to keep showing up, your choice to offer light in dark places, and your belief that even small acts, like a note in a book, can change someone's life. We all carry invisible battles, but like Harper, we have the power to choose compassion over cruelty, vulnerability over silence, and love over fear. So if you've ever felt invisible, unheard, or like you don't belong, remember this: you are enough. You always have been. Thank you so much for watching this story on our channel. Your time, your heart, and your presence here mean the world to us. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe so more people can find hope, just like Harper did. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, be kind, be brave, and never stop believing in the power of your story.